Brian. I am here. Sometimes I wonder what that guy is singing whenever I hear him on the intro music. So it's Wednesday. I apologize for being a day late. I'm actually still kind of dealing with the Tuesday stuff that I was talking about inside of my Discord. I'm just going to take a second because there might actually be a very good chance that my boss is going to, slack me in about 20 minutes into this, and I may have to mute my audio for all of you fine infosecians and people who just like to come and hang out with me. I appreciate if Colleen S is joining us from Twitter. Thank you for coming to talk about the San Diego weather. It's actually beautiful today. It was garbage yesterday, but yeah. This corner right here, there we go. QR code for Miss Berlin's book, second edition of Defensive Security Handbook. It's a QR code that goes to Amazon. I'm actually stupid and I don't actually have a referral link, so that just goes directly to Amazon without a referral link because I'm a moron and I turned off the BreakSec Amazon referral link thing a few years ago. So I don't get any kickback from it. If you decide you want to pre-order it, you can do so. You can also go to O'Reilly's website and get that as well. There's a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about in the aggregate, right? I was accused of by Lady P and others on Twitter of not being security. Well, it wasn't I was being accused of not being security enough, but it was like, hey, come join Brian's show. We're kind of light on security, which I'm actually okay with. I'm going to turn my fan off. Give me a second. Anyway, so I was accused of being light on security. Well, I actually don't have a problem with that. And I got Lady P's point that not everything has to be about security when we're streaming. I'd say 99% of Twitch is not security related in this case. So I was seeing a trend online, especially with the recall thing. We talked a little bit about that on Sunday. I think I talked a little bit about that before Sunday as well. For those of you who are unaware, the let me see, recall Winders is, so they have this nice little website where they're telling you what recall is all about, and it's a timeline information thing. So hey, here's your picture. You've got, I was looking for Korean restaurants that I was looking up, and they're looking at, it's an enhanced search. It's like Search Plus, really, because I've never actually had a good luck with Windows search. So recall, and the idea of this is to allow you to do things like, figure out which Korean restaurant you may have been looking up on Google, or restaurant, Korean recipes that you learned from a restaurant or something. The example they're given here, is like that. They say it's optimized for certain languages. So if you are not English, Chinese, French, German, Japanese, or Spanish, you may have a lesser experience. And so Copilot PC is one that's enabled with Snapdragon right now from Qualcomm, one of the Surfaces or Surface laptops. Obviously, Microsoft is talking to other groups and other, the Dells and the, not Gateways. Gateway's gone. I don't know why Gateway busted up in my noggin here, but like Asus and all those, to have an AMD or Intel version later on. And so there was the first thing that happened when it was announced by Microsoft is the typical InfoSec reaction from thought leaders and high visibility celebrities that we have inside of InfoSec, where it was automatically, immediately hot garbage. It's going to fail. And I understand. I get it. They've been in the, they being InfoSec celebrities that, say they aren't, but they really are, because they're trying to be, magnanimous and, humble and shit. Their opinion carries weight. And when they have an opinion, people will parrot that opinion. I'm guilty of it. I don't think anybody's ever called me an InfoSec thought leader. I do have opinions, but I can't imagine anybody's like, well, Brian said this, it's obviously, true or whatever. If you ever have, you should probably find better role models. I'm just saying. I have been fairly militant in the past on things, every time something new comes out, even AI, initially, and I had to catch myself because I was like, AI, is the devil, is going to, and I joke that it's going to bring about like Judgment Day and all this stuff like that. We in the InfoSec community come off as kooks. We come off as, I don't know, out of touch when we put such a strong opinion out there. I don't know if the InfoSec, I know the InfoSec celebrities, they don't care, or they think that they can do so because they have the privilege of doing so. But I hope that the InfoSec Illuminati celebrity thought leaders think about their actions, because other people will parrot their reaction in a less effective method. And what I'm concerned about is those people that go, well, this person said this, and I completely agree with that, but then those people can't go to their management and form a coherent thought about why something is bad. Well, it's bad because this person said it was bad. Well, who the fuck is that person, right? That's management telling the security person. When a security person is taking an opinion that they got from someone else instead of taking, what was their own opinion as firsthand, they're going to come off as uninformed. Hey, Shahat, it's not a scandal. It is a product, and it is coming out. No matter how much wailing and gnashing and chicken-littling the InfoSec community has done to talk about how bad recall may potentially be by the InfoSec, superstars out there, it's going to ship. So they have two things that the rest of the InfoSec Illuminati can do, and that's nothing and like it, really. They're just going to have to deal with that. Nothing that they will say will change anything. It's going to ship. Now, I will say that maybe some of the backlash that social media had about recall, with all the chicken littling and what have you, Microsoft got several $100,000 of free hours of threat modeling there. There was actually, I think I posted up in our Slack, a tool that somebody had used. Let me move that over here so I'm not, where was that? I posted here it is, Open Recall. So somebody had actually put out an open source privacy first alternative to proprietary solutions like Microsoft Windows Recall. I think the other thing is that recall is not a new product. There have been other products in the industry. I think so to your point, Shai-Hat, not only did they probably drop several $1 million into that, they probably dropped tens of millions of dollars into it, and they're gonna ship it. Our InfoSec celebrity out there is not going to halt a product launch. The number of times that has ever happened is zero. Products are always going to launch, whether or not they're secure or more secure, or somebody takes a step back after the fact and says, hey, we should probably secure this, is probably the better the better course of action that will occur. It's just the way of things. Now, some of the thoughts that came out were, can they do this? Can they do that? And Microsoft, to be fair, did listen. They said. And I sound like a Microsoft apologist, and if that loses me subscribers, it's going to be what it is. But I do own stock in Microsoft. It has gone up. It has done very well for me. But I am not nor have I ever been employed by Big Redmond. but they did listen to some of the feedback. They said, hey, you know, we get it. We're going to isolate certain things from the environment. They're going to add Windows Hello. So they are adding controls to this. Yeah, I just worry that the handful of InfoSec professional celebrities out there are they're throwing a bunch of stuff out there, and my concern is that they're not doing us any favors. Without a, you know, especially the ones that are like, oh, it's Microsoft, they're evil anyway, whatever. InfoSec people pointed out that LLMs can leak all sorts of nasty stuff through prompt injection, but that doesn't prevent everyone and their dog from integrating it into their apps. Exactly. And, you know, right now all you have is threat modeling, which is conjecture until you can, you know, follow it up. And I think there were articles about, hey, here's what you can do with some of that. To this point, here's Open Recall. You can go and look at it. It's not Recall from Microsoft, but it is an open source privacy alternative, which is great. I think Mac actually had something similar back in the day that it wasn't like LLM powered or what have you. So it's not the first solution that we've ever seen that had timelining or anything like this. Hell, VMware and VirtualBox have snapshots, which can, you know, hey, I screwed something up 2 hours ago. I need to go back in time to go back to, you know, a VM. Obviously different use cases, but we're going to find more issues because, you know, how much ever threat modeling and FUD that was created by the InfoSec community on Twitter and LinkedIn and what have you, there's probably stuff that still hasn't been found. My comments on Twitter was, you know, I would hope helpful, because I was asking questions like, let's say you're using this in an enterprise environment and the company turns it on, right? That would be tantamount to like recording a conversation or recording something like, you know, the thing that I have here. If I just, you know, if somebody popped up on a Zoom and I started recording it without letting them know, that's a problem. So, you know, if I'm at work, you know, typey. All of a sudden I should get some kind of notification, hey, IT's turned on recall, you know, that kind of thing. I love snapshots with VMs too. I had to use them a lot with things like Kali because, you know, invariably Kali would, you know, mess up, or, you know, I was done testing something in a VM, you know, in a virtual environment, or, you know, I had set up something inside that VM and I was like, okay, I'm done. I want to exit out and I want to clean VM again. So yes, you can use that in that way. For recall, you know, I'm thinking of the ability to eavesdrop on past conversations. I'm thinking of, you know, I'm thinking the same way. I just don't have the same outlet maybe as the celebrities that are out there. So I was thinking about, well, let's say IT decides that, you know, we're a company that's wanting to make sure that our people who work from home are doing, you know, they're actually working, right? So we want to enable recall on all the brand new boxes that we're going to give everybody gets a new tech refresh. Hoorah, you know, that kind of thing. It's a nice Windows 11 box with recall on it, but you're not told potentially that recall is enabled. What will recall do to let you know that recall has been enabled? Is there an icon in the lower, you know, lower bit of your computer? Is there a pop-up that says, hey, recall has been enabled? You know, when you log in, you know, that was the thing that I was thinking of from an enterprise point of view. And, you know, yes, you can enable it from the enterprise, but let's say I don't know why you would be doing this in 2024. Yeah, bossware, exactly. And again, recall is not the first time we've ever heard of boss or spyware. I mean, why do we have webcam covers, right? Why do security people put webcam covers on? Because we know that it's super easy to do things like turn on a webcam remotely. This technology is not new. The threat model for something like a recall is not new. And you know, it can be used for good, like most things. It can be used for very bad, like most things. And so I'm cautiously optimistic because it does sound like Microsoft is trying to do things correct with it. Especially, it's been very vocal. It's also, all of the wailing and gnashing has not damaged reputation or trust. I love some of the responses from the InfoSec or people who, and you see this with a lot. It's a lot of the same responses. Well, I've lost trust in Microsoft. I'm like, you probably didn't have much trust to begin with in them, but you're going to continue using Microsoft because you don't have a choice. Because if you work at a company that has Windows and you don't have a choice, you're going to be using that. You're going to have recall on your system at some point in the future, unless your company's legal team is like, yeah, no, e-discovery is a bitch. We're not going to, because immediately that would be an e-discovery thing. And for the monitoring and the SOC people and the forensic people, they love the idea. It's a great idea. But there needs to be guardrails. There needs to be from a legal point of view at the companies, there's going to have to be like, hey, we're not going to, use this as a tool by which we can say, hey, Bob hasn't done any work for the last week and a half. That's probably grounds for termination or something like that. Unless you let Bob know that he's being monitored by recall, in which case a lot of people would be very unhappy with the fact that spyware or botware is running on their boxes. But again, they don't really have any choice. If they don't want to work at that company anymore, they're going to take some backlash, sure, if that leaks to the media, and they'll have to deal with those ramifications when that happens. But I don't know if recall is recall is not a new problem. It's a problem that has, because Microsoft has their name on it or something, then it becomes a big deal. But it's just another one of those things that, everybody thought was a good idea. And in some cases it is, and we'll figure out what that looks like, and how we're going to secure that. I would actually be interested in talking to some forensic people going, hey, how would you use this as a forensics tool? Or how would you use this as a method maybe to find bad actors? It's just interesting. So what was the other? Oh, yes, Eric Capuano. Yeah, we were, I was talking with him on Twitter about some of this stuff, and he's on Mastodon, so he actually said much the same thing. And I told him I'd give him a shout out here on the stream. So, hey, Eric, shout out. He said, I disagree with the panic and ridicule resulting from recall announcements. Not a new concept. Actually, I could have just read his toot. They call them toots still. I don't know. Yeah, so as long as they make good on local storage and privacy promises, this could be a good feature. As long as we control, and we being the workers or the users of that system, control all that we see and do, and it's not managed at the enterprise level where it's like we don't have control over those things, or they can manage it at the enterprise level, but maybe allow local users to have access to what can and can't be shown, right? So if you have a work browser, like everyone uses Chrome, so Chrome will be the work browser of choice. So if you have Firefox on your box, you might have a policy across your work saying, if you're going to check Facebook, if you're going to check your Gmail, if you're going to check your banking, you need to use Facebook or Firefox or something like that instead of Chrome or something like that. If you're using Slack, that may be a bit more weak, bit more of an issue. I do have a private Slack on my machine here, but it's going to be interesting. I'm going to say that. It's going to be. There's going to be some legal discussions. I'm sure legal and privacy and GRC folks are all looking at this. And we being in security, we need to be involved in those discussions. instead of just, recall sucks, we're not going to do anything with it, whatever. We have to be collaborative. We have to work with our legal and privacy folks, because they're probably going to be the ones that are going to carry the day here in this battle, talking about eavesdropping and privacy and insecurity and regulations and those things. And the forensics people need to get involved. Hey, we want to be able to use recall for these things. So there's valid use cases for all of this. From an offensive security perspective, recall will become another service that can be exploited on Windows servers. I suspect it'll be subject of some modules on Try Hack Me or Hack the Box in the next few months. That sounds great. I would love to see, what that is. And, it will require... See, I don't know, Shy Hat. The last I've heard, they're going to do things like you must have Windows Hello enabled on the box. And let me see. Oh, and they're going to turn it off by default. That was the one thing that I was like, okay, they're doing it wrong. It should not be opt-in or opt-out. It should be opt-in. So they've modified these things, and actually it says security failings. But the other thing I worry about is media spin on this, right? Depending on which you read. If you read dark reading, or if you read the reg, or if you read bleeping computer or whatever, they're going to have their own little bent on these things. Very much like the people who watch Fox entertainment program show and MSNBC and CNN and whatever. You're going to get different opinions. You're going to get different explanations based on how technically savvy these reporters are, or what information they've had access to, or what sources they are, or what have you. And you're gonna run into that kind of issue where maybe the reporter didn't have the full story and they're kind of filling in the gaps, or maybe there wasn't a story there and they're just trying to make up a piece, that kind of thing. Or maybe LLM wrote it for them and they didn't bother to proofread the whole thing. I don't know. I would love to see Try Hack Me or Hack the Box that has recall on it. That would require them probably to have a physical box, because I don't know if you can emulate Snapdragon processors yet on for Windows 11 in a VM. I assume you probably could with something like a QEMU or what have you. I see I've already lost viewers, so oh well, it is what it is. So yeah, they've added, where is it? Yeah, they'll ship recall turned off by default. Users will need to enroll in Windows Hello, so that means you're either going to have to do facial recognition, biometric, or passkey, right? I use a combination of face and biometrics on my laptop. I just use the little fingerprint thing, but you can use a YubiKey token, get you one of these if you really want to use it. I mean, it's turned off by default. Recall data will be encrypted and only decrypted and accessible once the user authenticates via Windows Hello. So ideally, unless, I don't know of any Hello bypasses yet, so that would be interesting to see if there's any bypasses for Windows Hello yet. Sorry about that. There we go. So, I mean, they're moving it in the right direction. I'm sure that, once this becomes widely available, your organizations are going to need to make that decision whether or not they want to use it. And you definitely want to include your privacy folks, your legal folks, make sure that they're, and it might require you to update your privacy policies on, what you're going to allow it to do. And you may have to put out an internal press release saying, we decided to use recall in a limited fashion. Maybe it's something like, hey, we've noticed something bad going on your computer, and if it's not screenshots, then does it allow you to do other things like collect logs or activity on the box? Like, can it show when somebody popped calc on your box, for instance? I'm looking at, so many security experts cringed when recall was announced. yeah, I don't know who this person was, but he's not the person I was talking about. There was a few very vocal people. You can probably find them on the internet because they like to put posts out. Because I like to remember also that these InfoSec celebrities and thought leaders also have companies, and their exposure or discussion of that drives clicks to their website and would drive clicks to their business. So I have to ask if they are, okay, sounds good. Sorry. I have to ask if, is their motivation purely for security purposes, or is there an ulterior motive, like, they're trying to drum up business or, awareness of their own company's ability to do X, Y, we've analyzed this malware, we being my company, so they're going to get clicks to their company. They're going to have a blog post about analyzing this thing, or they're going to have a blog post about why recall is a bad thing or a good thing. So I have to remind myself that a lot of these thought leaders and celebrities have reasons by which they want to be out there and be a celebrity and be a thought leader. And so, I don't have any company to, rep or anything like that. So, but it's interesting. I think that we're going to see more things being done to lock this down before it becomes real. If they do make it so that the enterprise cannot enable it, I don't see it being used by a lot of companies if they don't have some kind of enterprise control to turn it on or turn it off. The interesting thing would be, to Shy Hat's point, what happens if you can get bypass Windows Hello? I would assume we'd have heard something bypassing Windows Hello. Well, there you go. What? Biometric authentication, rapid adoption. Yes, one of the most widely adopted is Windows Hello, which enables password login via code, fingerprint, or facial recognition, according to Microsoft. Yeah, this is in 2023. I don't know if the Windows 10 versus Windows 11 version is very much different. It's important to note potentially any authentication system that allows pluggable multi-party USB cameras to act as a biometric sensor could be susceptible to this attack without a proper mitigation. Sure, if somebody at your workplace has a third-party USB camera with a pluggable biometric sensor in them, yeah, that could be something you're worried about. Looks like there was a talk in 2021 about those kinds of issues. Oh, sorry. I just started the video, but I didn't know if the audio was on there. Okay, there we go. So they have a USB camera. The computer will use it as a source of truth for login. That's funny because my laptop has some kind of camera in it, but I can't use it for Windows Hello. I have to use the sensor. It's an awfully big. Okay, so USB sends a recorded frame of the target to the computer. Okay, so it appears that the pluggable third-party camera has been modified in some way to automatically send a frame that looks like the image. Yeah, maybe. That was an interesting video. If you have the ability to do that, that means you have physical access to the box, right? I've seen a few different methods people are using to bypass facial unlock tech, like tapping printouts of faces, or taping. Oh, sorry, that's me. I can't read for shit. Printouts of faces to rubber masks, etc. Yeah. I would hope that it has gotten better in the past few years, but I could be wrong. to be fair, again, to Shy Hat, though, you still need to be within proximity of the device itself. So, if you're on, it's not something that can be done remotely yet, as of 12 June 2024, yet, as far as I can tell. Yeah, hello for business. I mean, if you could it's an interesting thought. If you had some kind of USB interface over Ethernet, and that Ethernet or that USB interface camera over Ethernet was connected to the computer in some way, shape, or form, I wonder if that would work, because USB can go over Ethernet. It does happen. But yeah, so it still requires proximity and adjacentness, or like right here, if I was a bad guy and I could plug in with my USB port a camera or something that would send a frame that would make Windows Hello think that I am someone else, then yeah, that would be a way to get around it. But it still requires one person. It can't be done at scale currently. So some of the things that I have to think about when I'm at work, when I'm doing threat modeling with these folks, it's like, oh yeah, it's a terabad, it's a critical bug, whatever. And I'm like, it requires you to be sitting outside someone's house in the bushes within proximity to whatever it is they're doing, or they have to literally be on the physical network to make that happen. These are not critical issues. I've got to run and teach a class in a little bit. It's been fun talking about recall. Hey, you too, Shy Hat. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and hope the class goes well. Tell them all I said hey, or if you don't want to, if you want to, that's fine too. But yeah, thanks for the hanging out for a bit here. So, yeah. So I mean, there's spoofing, and you can do that kind of stuff. We need one IR frame and an entirely black frame. We tried to send one valid IR frame in the buffer. Windows Hello didn't accept as valid. When we sent both the black frame and the proper IR frame, we got in. We think that there's a liveness anti-spoofing mechanism that looks for changes between every 2 frames that come in a row. We did not pursue this hypothesis any further. It's an interesting bit of research from those folks on that. I mean, hopefully things have changed quite a bit between Windows 10 and Windows 11. They've added some additional things. But yeah, so I am, what's going on here? I need to keep an eye on the document that people are working on at work, because my Tuesday became my Wednesday. So yeah, so I would just say, try to keep, I don't want to say keep an open mind, but try to not immediately think that Judgment Day is going to occur anytime we have a new technology. It's going to take, some naming and shaming sometimes for some of the more thicker-headed companies. Their organizations are going to get free threat modeling from people on, social media, from internet celebrities and folks like that. And I just, just putting it out there that we don't need to go completely to judgment. It's going to cause Judgment Day. It's going to cause, nukes to launch and what have you. We just need to have a more pragmatic approach to these things. As Eric said, when ChatGPT dropped, there were skeptics and there were early adopters. And I remember when ChatGPT was dropping, everybody was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is so awful, whatever. And now we've got people like, oh, I can write my pen test reports with this, or I can write a better explanation of a vulnerability using ChatGPT. I mean, how many of you actually like writing reports? See, nobody raised their hand. ChatGPT can help with that, or write it in such a way that it becomes a better, use it as a communications tool. Now, I've talked somewhat at length about the art issue. We're not going to talk about that here, but we've got folks like Mick Douglas, who I'd love to have on the show. Mick, why aren't you on here? What, we need to have you on talking about concierge. There are good uses of every technology. We just need to make sure that we highlight those in this case. So, yeah. So, let me see. Oh, Nosira. I know Nosira. Good person. Asked some questions. We're absolutely curmudgeons, right? I catch myself being one too often. Try to give everything and everyone benefit of the doubt. The treasure trove of information is invaluable to a SOC. It really emphasizes the point that the value is imbalanced in the favor of threats. Yes, and there are definitely local threats: cops, abusive family, significant others, stalker types, criminal hackers. Sure, I guess if you can get somebody to unlock your stuff, if I'm sure you can do some social engineering to get somebody to unlock their computer, and then once that's done, it's been decrypted. If somebody's already on your box waiting for you to log in with Windows Hello, that could be a problem, right? If you're logging in with a password, does it decrypt the information? I don't know that yet. It sounds like you're not using Windows Hello if you're not using a PIN, a biometric, a pass key, like the YubiKey, or a facial recognition. So if you used a regular password, would it decrypt that? I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, that's a movie quote. But yeah, so. All of this data is already aggregated on the endpoint in a multitude of ways. Windows Timeline was they had a Windows Timeline in Windows 10, which I didn't hear shit about when it happened. No, not Windows, a timeline. Jesus. There we go. So yeah, cross-device syncing, for me, something that would take my information and sync it across multiple boxes would probably be scarier than anything else. I mean, I have SyncThing on my box right now. SyncThing. It is like a personal private cloud kind of thing. If somebody gained access to one of my boxes or my phone, because I use it to sync there too, and added a device to my sync folder, they would have anything and everything that I copied to the device. I don't always check if anything new has been added. I mean, there's a myriad of ways of getting data or getting information off of a box other than just recall in this case. But so they say what timeline? Oh, the timeline user experience was retired in Windows 11, although it remains in Windows 10. So you still have cross-device syncing in Windows 10. Interesting. What is timeline? It's a feature that appeared. It lives on your taskbar and enhances task view to show you currently running apps. Oh, that's not it then. It allows you to snapshot of things you were working on from earlier in the day or specific past date. An annotated scroll bar lets you know where you are in your timeline. If you'd rather not scroll, you can search for the item or activity you'd like to pick back up on. To get started on a timeline, select task view on or press Windows tab. Oh, right, Windows tab. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I seem to remember something like that as well. Like, yeah, it was running up here on top where you could, go back and forward in time. So yeah, what controls show up in my timeline? So you can limit the accounts displayed in the timeline. You can turn off accounts you don't want to show in your timeline. So it sounds like it feels like maybe some of this is just a natural progression to recall. The ability to limit, what accounts are, on the system, remove activity from a timeline, clear activities from a timeline. So it sounds like, yeah, they've just added something to this. They took it out initially in Windows 11 because maybe it wasn't ready for prime time in Windows 11. And now they've got all the fancy LLMs and stuff, and they're like, yeah, let's make this better. We can use OCR. We can do all those necessary bits. So it's been a little quiet, isn't it? But yeah, so it is what it is. I would just say try to be pragmatic if you can about what you're working on or what new technology is coming out there. We're all cool about the new offensive security tool that comes out, I've been in the camp for the last 3 or 4 years of asking the question, well, how's that going to be used for evil, right? Hey, I've got this cool tool, I've got Bloodhound or whatever, and it's going to do this and blah. Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, but so the bad guys now have it, that kind of thing. I think Mick Douglas had something similar happen to him with PowerCat. He released it to much fanfare. It was great, awesome. Bad guys are using it. Right? And it's just one of those offensive security tool problems. It's great when we can put out tools of our own, but there's people are going, hey, this is going to be used by bad guys, right? Cobalt Strike, good guy tool. Now it's, ransomware du jour for bad guys. It's what, not ransomware. It's what bad guys like to use, right? Because it's been modified and the code got leaked. I mean, if Recall had been an open, an offensive security tool, would we have been all in on it? But Microsoft released it first. So now we're on the other side of the fence here with offensive security tools, right? So it is what it is. What was I? Oh, I saw a Reddit the other day where I think it was a Today I Effed Up thing where somebody said, hey, where was it? Is that it? No, that's not it. There was actually I've started using Reddit a little more because I find I get more interaction there than I do on like the Twitters of the world or what have you. There we go. So, no, somebody deleted the post. No. Crap. That sucks, man. Somebody, the original creator must have deleted it. Anyway, so it come to be that it was one of the Today I Fucked Ups. Somebody was on their work computer, and they happened to have a very scandalous picture or video of their ex. Now, this person should not have kept this after they are now their ex, but they did anyway, and it was on their work computer. And the first thing I said was, hey, why do you have this shit on your work computer? There was, I think the first person that actually posted, because I caught it on like the second or third one, was, why are you doing personal stuff on your work machine? And this kind of delves into the Recall stuff, doesn't it? Doing personal stuff on your work computer when you might have a technology or a spyware technology like what some people believe Recall will be, not a good idea. The biggest argument is, well, what if they only have one computer? It's, and I responded, it's 2023 or 2024. Chromebooks are $300. Go buy one, right? You should not be doing anything personal on your work computers. There are, sometimes, depending on where you work, there might actually be requirements that anything you do of a non-work related, like if you have a side gig and you use your work computer to do things like, let's say it's got a beefy processor and some, maybe the Adobe suite of utilities on the system. Oh, that's another one. Oh my goodness. Adobe privacy license. Yes. Yeah. So there was, there was more than one person saying, hey, don't put work shit on don't put personal shit on your work computer. You're going to run into issues. You should never have even had that on your work computer to begin with, etc. It's just, sometimes the Reddits just make me laugh about the content that people will put up there about, today I effed up by doing this. But, for those of you who enjoy Adobe creative tools, they're, Photoshop, you've got, Dreamweaver from back in the day, but there was, they made a change to the licensing. that I would say they ran afoul of some creatives on the site here. Come on, there we go. So they changed. Where was that? Where was it? Yes, here in section 1 and 2 and section 2.2 and section 4.1, they say we reserve the right but do not have the obligation to remove content or restrict access to content services and software of your content found to be in relation of the or in violation of the terms. Is this the right article? Yeah, it is. Okay. There was quite a bit of uproar on this because the way the new terms of service sounded, they were going to allow them to it allowed Adobe to basically take your project work that you might have in the Creative Cloud, and they didn't specifically say we're going to use it to train our LLM or our AI, but that's what everybody thought, right? Let me see, Adobe terms of service LLM. Yeah, there we go. Users of Adobe pointed out the new terms of service allowed Adobe to do whatever it wanted to with users' projects. That's what they were trying to say. Adobe accesses user content for a number of reasons, including the ability to deliver some of our most innovative cloud-based features such as neural filters and remove background in Adobe Express, as well as take action against prohibited content. Adobe does not access, view, or listen to content that is stored locally on any user's device. So if it's stored in the cloud, the way they made this sound when they tried to cover up, or not cover up, but when they tried to clarify what the terms of service said, definitely made it sound like if you are not storing this stuff locally, they're going to be looking at it in the cloud to train their LLM. Or their neural filters, because some of that is so it's a lot of problems, and I think folks like Alton Brown, Twitter, I think he actually said that he was suspending use of any Adobe Creative stuff after finding out about the issue there. So yeah, he said, my company's suspending all use of Adobe products until our attorneys have had time to thoroughly review the user agreement changes. So that was a bit of a thing. So yeah, Adobe's recent changes in content handling is outlined in the provided information on their website could pose compliance issues with various cybersecurity standards. Oh, this is interesting. I didn't see this tweet. This is new. Adobe's practice of manually reviewing reported content may lead to the exposure of uncontrolled, unclassified information violating 800-171. Well, some of this is like you shouldn't have controlled, unclassified information in the Adobe Cloud or being used on like Photoshop or something, if that's really the case. This may be another thing where your privacy and legal folks are going to have to get involved if you're using the Adobe suite of products, if you're using it for content creation or what have you. So there was a number of different things that came up there. Yeah, so I mean, it gets real ugly with some of this stuff. I mean, it's getting to the point where anytime somebody sends out an email of terms of service changes or privacy changes, we're going to need to start really reading those things, because if you don't, you're going to find out, hey, congratulations, we're now going to use your content for LLM training if you don't opt out of this, or you've got 30 days to let us know in writing that you don't want us to use your DeviantArt or your whatever you've put in your Creative Cloud. And so yeah, that's interesting. So the company says it'll be clarifying terms of use acceptance to reflect the detail of Thursday's post. It's not clear when that's going to happen. What would have been better is a blanket statement saying they won't use it for Firefly, it won't sell or license it to train their models. Other generative AI providers complain that properly licensing content to train models is too hard, so they shouldn't have to. I can understand that. Yeah. Finally said something concrete on Thursday night. So this is their clarification here. The other thing is they said it in a blog post. They didn't necessarily say it in their terms of service. And so do you have to, when you're logging in, do you have to, accept that again or do re-acceptance of the new terms of use or terms of service? So it's good that they've added things like, here's the changes that we made. So we may or will only, so they here's the red lines basically where it's like, I don't agree with what they said, let me put some red lines in. So they've added some red lines in here, which, some of it's useful, like, making sure that, it's going to screen for certain things like CSAM and what have you. Requires a limited license to access content solely for the purpose of operating and improving the services and software and to enforce our terms. So, yeah. I mean, it makes sense that Adobe's coming out with some kind of LLM or something like that to train content or to train, So our commitments have not changed. Adobe does not train Firefly Gen AI models on customer content. I hope to God they're 100% correct on that, because I can imagine that somebody has already done Internet Archive of this and done a screenshot of the website so that they can go back and go, oh, you said this on this date, because they put it in bold and they actually followed up with that. Adobe will never assume ownership of a customer's work. Yeah, I mean, that would be a death of Adobe if they actually tried to enforce that kind of thing. But yeah, it's interesting, the privacy issues, and I would say it's a good time to get into privacy and compliance these days, because there's a lot of nuance happening with regards to how things are being trained, or what is happening with content, who owns the content, how is it being used, what are the lines that are being drawn in the sand on what is okay to use and what is definitely not okay to use, and what people's perceptions of what those are. So for some people, it's like, yeah, I don't want you doing anything with my stuff. Or other folks are like, yeah, that's cool. Let me do it on a limited basis. Or it's going to be an interesting time to get into privacy, I think, in the next few years. Hell, probably the next 6 months, right? As we see more and more companies coming up with LLM products. So yeah, good stuff. Anybody have any thoughts? I mean, I'm sitting here rambling and I'm trying not to doomsday stuff, as I mentioned 30 minutes ago about internet celebrities and them poo-pooing on everything. I'm wondering what the conversations were like at Adobe when this hit the fan, where people were like, because usually terms of services you would think had been vetted by legal or lawyers or something, and not like, PR and marketing people are like, oh, we'll just update our terms of service. I'm hoping that the legal team at Adobe's like, yeah, maybe they didn't read it themselves. I don't know. It just, how that ever got out, and maybe this is one of those things like we're threat modeling. How would somebody interpret that, right? It's just interesting that how that ended up being. So let's go see if there's been any news. I haven't been able to do shit today with. Snowflake cloud accounts. Oh yeah. Snowflake. I heard about this. I was going to talk about this on Sunday, but I don't think we had some time to do that. Snowflake is, what is Snowflake exactly? It's some kind of third party that does something. Obviously it does something right, and you're an idiot. Says that while Mandiant's Snowflake findings could be on billboards, the message itself has been repeated countless times, falling on deaf ears. Oh, so it sounds like, let me go see what's Snowflake. Anybody here use Snowflake? AI data, oh no. AI data cloud, mobilizing data apps and AI. So hackers steal a significant volume of data from hundreds of Snowflake customers. Given shortcomings of Snowflake and its customers, plenty of blame to go around. So Dan Gooden from Ars Technica, again, one of the staples of the industry, and somebody who, you know, he's not a Brian Krebs who likes to make news. He does still report on the news. As many as 165 customers of this cloud storage provider has been compromised by a group that obtained login credentials through the information stealing malware, said Monday. Okay, so this was on the 10th. Wow, okay, so this is fresh right off the press here. So investigations ongoing as of this time. Does not appear the don't say that shit, Mr. Megan Grueling Lending Tree spokesman person. Yeah, great. At this time, it does not appear customer financial account information was impacted, nor information of the parent entity Lending Tree. People say that. Oh God, security people, it feels like we need to school our, you know, when you're in the middle of an investigation or there's an incident response like this, we need to school our, you know, spokespeople or the mouthpiece of the company by saying, don't say this shit. And, you know, you know, Snowflake cares about your security and privacy. Sounds like thoughts and prayers, right? You know, thoughts and prayers. It's useless. You know, you don't give a shit about the customer, you know, privacy and security, because if you had, you wouldn't have to give that statement out because you wouldn't have been breached. Or you would have done some, you know, done the needful or done some due diligence to make sure that this shit didn't happen. So Mandiant retained by Snowflake to investigate the mass compromise. So far, only 165 customers. Live Nation confirmed 10 days ago that data from its Ticketmaster group was stored on Snowflake was stolen. So $560 million Ticketmaster customers. Great. So if you've ever been a Ticketmaster customer, you've probably got leaked, or you're going to get an envelope in the mail. So I heard about Santander. Data belonging to some of its customers have been stolen. Ticketmaster, Hudson Rock. Yes, that's they wrote up the initial report, I think, is what I remember, and then it got taken down because yeah, there was something about that report from Hudson Rock. I think I mentioned that on the stream, but yeah, I couldn't figure out where the report was or why it was put out like that. So Mandiant's Monday post said all compromises it has tracked so far were the result of login credentials for Snowflake accounts being stolen, sometimes for years at a time. Snowflake, I think I remember that. I think Snowflake had said if the data was stolen, it was only because the customers didn't enable 2FA on their accounts. And it sounds like there may have, you know, either it was large amounts of password reuse, which, you know, 165 companies or 165 customers, including Ticketmasters, reusing passwords somewhere, or one person inside of Snowflake didn't have 2FA on their, you know, system, or there was alert fatigue or something like that. So yeah, there's a one-time password or additional means of authentication besides a password. Okay, so wow, members principally located in North America. That's interesting. So in normally you don't hear about hacker, collectives or whatever in the United States. So that's kind of interesting. Based on our investigations to date, UNC, the man from UNC, yeah, 5537 obtained access to multiple organizations' Snowflake customer instances via stolen customer credentials obtained from multiple InfoStealer malware campaigns that infected non-Snowflake owned systems. Yeah, they say it impacted accounts. So there was multiple accounts suggested. They didn't have MFA on them. Credentials stolen were still valid. Some case years after they were stolen had not been rotated or updated. Now, that's interesting. I can't imagine 165 customers at Snowflake did not rotate passwords or did not offboard people who had worked there at the time at their specific companies like Ticketmaster or what have you, that would be pretty damning. It could be, again, it could be, Snowflake hadn't offboarded everybody, but I don't know. It's just really, really weird. It says customer and personal devices. That would mean that there's like a systemic problem with several hundred companies that they know of so far that had not enabled MFA on their accounts and that were reusing passwords or something. Good God. That's the way I'm reading it. If somebody else have any other thoughts on that, I don't know. Let me see what's going on here. We got, sorry, I'm refreshing my screen here because I'm looking at, let's see, Slack. Okay, good. The earliest InfoSealer infection date observed in the credential theft occurred in November of 2020. So during the pandemic, this was when the first accounts were stolen. In all, Mandiant identified hundreds of customer Snowflake credentials exposed via InfoStealers since then. So it almost, is it a long con? Is it a long-term kind of thing? Some of the InfoStealers used have been names such as Vidar, RisePro, Redline, Raccoon Stealer, Luma, MetaStealer. In some cases, the malware was installed on machines that contractors used for work and personal devices, including gaming and pirated software. Interesting. Besides members of North America, the group collaborates with an additional member in Turkey. So it feels like they've identified these people and they actually have like where they live, who they are, where they're located, etc. Connections come through IP addresses along with VPNs. Excuse me, from Mulvad or private internet access. Yeah, it feels like this was like a long-term thing. So wow, they bided their time. They bidded. They laid in wait until it was a good time to pull the trigger on all these things. There you go. The broad impact underscores the need for credential monitoring, universal enforcement of MFA, and secure authentication. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I actually am a fan of doing things like if they haven't logged in 60 days, you turn off the account. Or if they haven't logged in after a certain amount of time, I mean, because what would be worse, not logging in for like 60 days and then all of a sudden start logging in? I mean, if that's normal, fine, but if you don't need the account activated all the time, there could definitely be controls put into place to, I don't know, tar pit it or, not make it, make it something that would light off like, hey, it's been 60 days since this person logged in. Maybe you should take a look and see if this is a legitimate account. Especially if you're not, especially if you're not very good at offboarding people, that kind of thing. You either shore up your systems to remove, all people going off out of the company or leaving the company or being laid off or what have you. But also maybe send an alert. Hey, this person hasn't logged in for 2 years. And it's like, oh, well, why are they logging in now? Maybe it's because you didn't delete their account or they didn't get their account deleted and they're using it. So that would be a potential indicator of compromise. I mean, there may be false positives there, but yeah, I mean, you can always say any length of time that they're not using it, that kind of thing. So Gossi, who has been dropping the knowledge the last couple weeks, Kevin Beaumont, MFA can't be enabled org-wide. Each user has to manually log in and enable it. There's no policy to block users without MFA. It uses Duo MFA rather than your org's MFA. You can bring your own MFA with SAML. Also, all users log in via Snowflake domain, so you can just pull the creds from an InfoStealer's marketplaces or logs. That's why they're being targeted as a platform. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's interesting there. So Yeah, there definitely needs to be some changes there. You need to be able to, maybe MFA needs to be enabled regardless. Like, Snowflake seems like Snowflake could flip that switch and go, you use an OAuth flow or use an MFA kind of thing to make it happen. So yeah, hopefully that will spur some folks to make those changes at their works, especially for Snowflake or for other third parties. If your third parties don't enable MFA by default, find out if they charge you extra for that, and ask if they do, why they're doing that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, here's the dark. There we go. It's a little warm in my office. I had to shut the window, and I'm thinking that I need to get back to work just in case my manager is watching this. Hey, manager, how you doing? But it's interesting to have to deal with metrics. I'm not a fan. I understand the need for metrics. I just don't know if they're impactful enough. And I think I don't know if that's something, you listeners struggle with, but if it takes you an inordinately large amount of time to create metrics for something, it feels to me like those metrics need to help in some way. If you're just creating metrics like, hey, we closed 15 tickets today. So what? What does it tell people? And if it takes you hours to figure out that you've closed 15 tickets this month, is it worth the effort to get that metric? And, what do you do to automate these things? It's hard to get access to all the data sources that you might need, like, ticketing systems and, dashboards and these things and those things and widgets and wonks and what have you. What's the point, right? I'm finding that to be kind of my sticking point right now, and it's actually causing me quite a bit of stress. That's why I had to step away from work to come and talk with you fine people. If the metrics are supposed to tell a story, but if you're giving the same metrics every month and it's like, oh, well, we closed 12 this month and we closed 15 last month. Okay, so, or the numbers that are always in flux, right? It's like, last month we had 150 come in and now we only have 12. Well, why the big dip? Well, it's just the way it is. Sometimes you'll get a lot of bugs because of this, or sometimes you won't get a lot of bugs, or, to flip it, we had 12 last month, we had 150 this month. Why'd you have that? Well, people just got nosy and started poking around on things. And this is what shook out. And it's like, I really have trouble telling stories with the metrics that we have, because I don't think that people care about the metrics. And so oh, interesting. Yeah, you did that. You did that, didn't he? Nah, okay. Oh, wait. What are these down here? Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably do need to go, because looks like there's been some changes made to the system here. I don't know which one is, and of course, what's your single point of truth, right? I don't know how your organizations are with collection of that information, and it's great if you can collect it all in one place, but that's rarely the case. You're going to have some information here. You're going to have some information over here. You're going to have half-assed information over here that's been updated in 3 months ago, but it hasn't been updated. Why hasn't it been updated? Oh, let's go and figure out why that. Okay, now we're down a rabbit hole trying to figure out why our metrics don't match up. I would be really interested, and please, feel free to DM me on Discord. We have a complete friend DA here about those things. But if you have some interesting stories about what you did to solve that, and I understand your solution won't necessarily solve my solution or my problem, but just let me know that it'd be nice to know that other people have the same issues. But yeah, it's like, and the other thing that gets me is like you're sitting here and you're talking about things like patching or vulnerabilities, and you may have several hundred vulnerabilities and it's gone down by 10 this month, and you're like, what have I accomplished? That kind of thing. Or why is it taking so long to get down to 0? Or do we really give a shit about the mediums and lows? Do we have to care if the team that's going to be doing those things care? No, you don't really. And at what point do you just say, yeah, we're not even gonna bother collecting those if they're not mediums or lows? Or what? I think we've talked about this with Miss Berlin and Mr. Betcher. It's like, if you can find ways, and the problem is we don't have time to do this normally. If there's a way, and maybe this is what LLM can do, to take your mediums and lows and go, okay, based on the 500 mediums and lows you have, I can take these 5 issues and get system on your Windows box, or I can get root by doing these 6 things, or 12 of these things together is going to, and it might be convoluted at that point. It's like, oh, with these 12 things, I can get root. Well, okay, then we know how difficult it is to actually get root on the box with these 12 mediums or lows. A loss of any one of those in the chain, what's the resilience of that chain? It's like, okay, well, I can take out 2 of these and I can replace them with 3 more that we have in the system. And so it's like, you can say, well, okay, we definitely have issues here. And that's where you could start saying, well, a fix here will affect 20 of these issues or something like that. It just feels like that there should be a way to do that. And that's $1 billion idea. And if somebody comes up with something like that, where it's like, hey, we can take a look at your Jira backlog in security and go, these 5 things are bad because, the LLM says so, I will give you $100,000. So you heard it here first. I don't have $100,000, but I'll find it. I have to liquidate my E-Trade account to give you VC money. I will do that. But anyway, I'm going to go. I'm going to see if there's anybody online that we can raid. Actually, I don't know how many lurkers we have right now, but let's go see if anybody's online. Tiberius is online. Oh, I'm so pretty. Look at me in 2K format, 1440p. Yeah, let's go hit up. Oh no, let's hit up Shy Hat. Shy Hat had to leave, so let's go raid Shy Hat, because Shy Hat hit me up. So. All right, so let's go raid Shy Hat. Hope y'all have a good day. Thank you for our one viewer for sticking along with me. I don't know if you're a chat bot or what, but it's all good. Have a good rest of your day. Talk to you soon, and take care. Bye, y'all.